And we're back here. A little Bruce Springsteen Badlands brings us back. Our next guest, the former vice president of player personnel for the Dallas Cowboys. Now he's a talk show host on Sirius XM, the NFL channel, and a writer for NFL.com. And that is Gil Brandt. Gil, Zach Gelb here, DARPATV.com. You're joining us on the Peerless Boilers hotline. Peerless builds America's best boilers. Thanks so much, and how you doing on this fine evening?
Well, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you for coming on. And the Baltimore Ravens lost to the New England Patriots in the AFC Conference Championship game by a score of 23-20. It was a terrible game for the Baltimore Ravens in the way that it ended. But John Harbaugh did not have his best coaching performance of the season. I didn't like the call to go for it on 4th and 6, on 3rd and 1. You could have probably used a timeout, and then you didn't also have a timeout when Billy Cundiff was rushed onto the field. Great Harbaugh's coaching performance from this past Sunday for me.
Well, I think that you don't rate on one game. I think you rate on a year and a career. And, he's been pretty good. But 4 years as a head coach, he's taken the team to the playoffs each of the 4 years. This is the first time I believe he didn't win a road game. And yes, if he had it all to do over again, I'm sure that they would have called a timeout before they tried to kick the field goal. And one of the things that's come into play here is apparently on the scoreboard they had it as 3rd down, and I think that the reason that the kicker was late getting out there was he might have been looking at the scoreboard and thought that 3rd down, I got a lot of time here, I don't have to hurry. And, the guy got it off all right. There was about a second left, or maybe a little over a second left is what it was. But, unfortunately, they'll be talking about that just like they talked about the wide right at Florida State and the wide right with Buffalo and the New York Giants.
Yeah, and I saw some of the coaches for the Ravens, some assistant coaches, they were complaining about that. But as a coach, don't you need to be cognizant in that situation and get your kicker on the field in the right amount of time? And if not, shouldn't Harbaugh have taken a timeout when he sees his kicker rushing onto the field with about 7 seconds left on the play clock, though?
Well, I think there was a little more than 7 seconds left on the play clock because actually the kicker, he did run out there, no question that he was late. But I tell you this, it's human nature to err. And, unfortunately, you erred by not taking the time out when it was so very, very, very important. And especially to this team, because this is a team with older players, and you don't know if they're ever going to have a chance to get back to the Super Bowl, to get into the tournament for the Super Bowl again, because, a team like Cincinnati now is emerging. And Cleveland, I think, is going to be a much better team. So, they blew a very, very good chance.
Listening to some talk radio shows, some people did think Lee Evans did catch that ball. They didn't review it because the NFL explanation was that the people upstairs, they looked at it and they didn't think it was worth reviewing. They didn't want to take time away from that game. I've seen that play 100 times. I don't think that second foot is down when the ball comes out. What are your thoughts about the Lee Evans non-catch? Do you think he had it or don't you think he had it?
Well, I think he didn't have it because I think the officials in the National Football League are very, very, very good at what they do. And more than anything, they want to be right. And I think if there was any thought that he had gotten both feet down before Morris stripped it, and I think you got to give Morris a lot of credit because he made a great play. Here's a young man that only played 2 years in major college football, was a junior college transfer, undrafted free agent, went to Oakland, got cut at Oakland, and came in, and all of a sudden he's the hero of the game and the hero of the year so far for the New England Patriots, because without his play there, they probably wouldn't be alive today and going to next week's Super Bowl in Indianapolis.
No doubt about it. And you also saw Sterling Moore, who made the incredible play. He was cut also by the Patriots this year, and he was brought back in December. And it's just a great storyline to see such a young kid make such a big play. But Moore's teammate, Vince Wilfork, was consistently great throughout the whole game. Talk about the big man's performance on Sunday.
Well, Wilfork was like a man playing in a boys' game. And by that I mean he was like an NFL player sling against a YMCA team. He played extremely well, extremely well. Nixovich, all of those guys really, really played well, is what they did. But the tackle, that's why he's going to the Pro Bowl, or was supposed to go to the Pro Bowl, and that's why he's all pro. You expect performances like that on a Woolfolk.
We're talking to Gil Brandt of NFL.com. And, Gil, let's go to the other conference championship game. Kyle Williams had 2 fumbles. If he was on your team, Kyle Williams, what advice would you give to the young man after the game?
Well, I don't know what you can say to somebody outside of to encourage him that it wasn't his fault that they lost. Yeah, it was, but, most of the time you can overcome something like that. Is what it amounts to, but they just weren't able to overcome it during the regular part of the game, and then of course it really hurt in the overtime because of the field position that you give them. But remember this now, he was not their returner. Ted Ginn was their returner, and they traded for Ted Ginn this year to have that player, and unfortunately Ginn got hurt, and so you had to go with your second best athlete or second best player. And the other thing that I think hurt him too is they were down to two receivers, and so he was running every play on pass routes. And I imagine if you play all these pass routes and run all these pass routes, you get a little bit tired, and he just may have gotten a little bit tired.
And people have been saying, the Giants were targeting Kyle Williams because of his concussions past. You've been in the NFL for many years. Have you ever heard a head coach or have you ever heard players talking behind the scenes saying, we're going to really try to get to this guy early and try to take him out of the game due to his injury past?
No, I never have heard that. I've never had coaches encourage somebody to do that. People try to take a player out of the game, but not with an injury. They try to take him out of game by doubling him up or forcing him to do things that he's not accustomed to doing and take away from his performance. But I've never heard of anybody trying to go after somebody because he, quote, had 4 concussions.
And then you also look at it this way with Kyle Williams after the first fumble. I know he's a young kid. Many people are saying, well, and I know it's very easy after a game to go back and nitpick at things. Maybe Coach Jim Harbaugh should have taken him out of the game. And you already had Ted Ginn Jr., as we mentioned, out of the game due to injury. If you were in that situation, let's say you were the coach of the San Francisco 49ers, after the first fumble by Kyle Williams, would you have probably maybe went to your third guy on the depth chart and put him in back there to return those punts?
Well, obviously, I think Jim Harbaugh, who I think is a very good coach, obviously he thought that he could do the job or was the best person to do the job. And what it amounts to is who are you going to put back there? Crabtree, as an example. I'm not sure who you would put back there, or just let it be a safe punt and get out of the way and cost you 15 yards or 20 yards. There's a lot of things you could do. But I think what he did is he went with his best, his ace, and unfortunately the ace didn't do really well on 2 occasions.
We're talking to Gil Brandt, the former vice president of player personnel for the Dallas Cowboys. And Gil, a few more questions right before we let you run. This is a very tough question to ask you. The tuck rule with Brady and the Oakland Raiders, the Billy Cundiff miss, and the Kyle Williams 2 fumbles. If you had to look at all 3 of those, which one, if you had to take the worst out of all the evils, is the most tough one to swallow for one of those fan bases?
Well, I would guess that the tuck one is the hardest to swallow, and it was a correct call. But it was the hardest because of the fact that instead of a Raider team going to the Super Bowl, a New England team went to the Super Bowl, and it really changed the direction of both franchises. But, for every call that goes against you, you get one that goes in your favor. So I think over a period of time, it evens itself out.
Brady and the Pats are going back to the Super Bowl, the 5th time in Tom Brady's career, the 7th time in franchise history. Gil, Tom Brady, would you be ready to proclaim him the greatest quarterback of all time if he's able to take care of business come 2 Sundays?
Well, I don't know if because we have so many great players in the National Football League, I don't know if we can say one is ever the greatest that we've ever had. And I think he is very, very good. But I think Peyton Manning is very, very good. I think Eli Manning is very good. I think Rodgers is very good. And, I think probably Brady is fortunate because this is the 5th Super Bowl that he'll be playing with Coach Belichick. Never happened before. And I think all of those little things probably lend to all of a sudden he's your sentimental favorite. But I just can't see taking one player over the other. I hope Brady wins, and I hope Manning wins. The thing I hope for more than anything is it's an entertaining game, and I think that's what it'll be.
Final one here as we're talking to Gil Brandt on the Peerless Boilers hotline with Zach Gell. Peerless build America's best boilers. You mentioned Peyton Manning. He has a new head coach. He has a new general manager. And when you think about it, Peyton Manning is one of the all-time greats. And if you were to hire a new coach and a new general manager, if number 18 was in your plans, you would think that Jim Irsay would at least consult him on who he would like to see be the next head coach. Do you believe that Peyton Manning's days are numbered in Indianapolis?
Well, I don't think any of us are equipped to answer that question because of the fact that is he going to be able to play? I think that's going to be a medical decision. That's what it's going to be. And, I think this. I disagree with you that he should have been consulted on it. And the reason I say that is because Jim sat through all the interviews. He kind of had a game plan for what he wanted. And he hired a general manager first and then hired a coach. And only time will tell, but I do think Chuck Picano is going to be a very, very good head coach. He's a very fiery type of guy. His dad has been a coach. Has a brother that's been a coach. And then, in fact, he's a coach in the National Football League right now. And so I think he's very well qualified for the job.
I expect Andrew Luck to be the #1 overall picked in the draft this upcoming year in April. You're a drafting guru. You have to imagine, though, that the Colts will take the Stanford product in this upcoming draft, right?
Well, I would imagine they will consider him, and I think that there's a long time until the end of April. But I think if you drafted today, Andrew Luck would be the choice, and I think he'd be a very, very good choice. I think he'll play in the league for a long time at a very, very high caliber of play.
Gil, I know you were in Radio Row last year in Dallas in your backyard. Are you going to be in Radio Row come this year in Indianapolis?
I'll be there. Looking forward to seeing you.
Well, looking forward to seeing you too. Thanks so much for your time, Gil. I appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis, and hopefully we get you on the show down there.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.